And so, my dear ones, again, welcome into this good day and our celebration of one thing alone, and that is love. Today is all about love. And around that, we're looking at love, its betrayal, forgiveness, and then the rising up out of all of that experience. That's what we celebrate here today. And we do that with the greatest master teacher, Jesus, in mind. The amazing and incredible example to us all. Not the exception, but the greatest example of love unconditioned and unconditional, lived out through that life, that beautiful life. And amongst all of the masters that have walked amongst us, Jesus is indeed that amazing example of how life can indeed be lived in difficult times, through difficult times, and how an individual can move through those difficult times if the individual knows that they are accompanied. That thing that we call life, the thing that we call God, the thing that we call the Omega and the Alpha, and every other thing you can think of that we call the great unnamed one. Jesus walked his walk in that company, always, and knowing he was never separated from it, which is what gave him the impetus, gave him the strength, gave him the inspiration, gave him the guidance, gave him the ability to endure and to succeed and achieve in fulfilling the purpose for which he came. It's an incredible love story. It has been called the greatest love story ever. And that is his story, a love story. And again, we look at the love story through the camera of love unconditioned and unconditional flowing through the master teacher, Jesus. The betrayal of that, the forgiveness that arose out of that, and even before that. And then the transcendence of it all, and the accomplishment of what Jesus was here to accomplish, and his transcendence then into the glorified life when his time here was done. So, it's difficult for probably all of us to understand what unconditional and unconditional love is, because we have to become it to know it and to understand it. And those of us on a spiritual path are in that endeavor. We're in that endeavor because we all know that we're all called to be the one thing and the one thing only on this three-dimensional plane, and that is to become the greatest lover we can become. To be the example of what love is, what true love is, real love is, divine love is. Because our path is the way of divine love. And so we do our best with that, and we dance around it, and we're always kind of trying to figure that one out. And the way we do that here on planet Earth, because it's a school, we learn by our mistakes, the mistakes we make. What we call love, we discover, no, that wasn't love at all. I thought I was going the route of love, but no, that wasn't the most unconditional way of being, etc. So we're all dappling with that, and we're all in and out of various degrees of it actually all the time, because it fluctuates depending upon how we are, what's going on in our lives, and so on. You can call it whatever, biorhythms, whatever you want to call it. There's so many names to excuse ourselves for the way we misbehave ourselves at times. But at the end of it all, it's just ignorance, really, because if we were aware, we wouldn't make certain mistakes. I can assure you of that. So anyway, that's the love unconditional bit. And then there's the betrayal of that. Well, I don't think there's anyone amongst us that hasn't experienced some kind of a betrayal at one stage or another. And it's not nice, is it, to say the very least? And it can cause great suffering at the other end of that pole. Great suffering, great pain, great wounds, great hurt. And sometimes we find it hard to come back from that. We find it very hard to come back from that. That's why there is so much unforgiveness in our lives, because we just find it very, very difficult to move through that. And we have the great examples all around us, and of course the arch example is the example of Jesus himself, when he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And Father was his favorite name for this thing called life in its bigness and its wholeness in its fullness. Grace in its bigness, wholeness, and fullness. Presence in its bigness, wholeness, and fullness. That was his favorite name. We all have our pet names for this, that, and the other. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. After such brutality was experienced, and such betrayal, and such desertion, and the idea and the understanding, I stand alone. There's no one here but me to help myself and the Father within me. And only because of the Father within me can I do this thing. And the thing about Jesus was, he was amazing. My gosh, the more I think about the man Jesus, and all the other great ones too, the more I sit with them, the more I ponder them, contemplate them, meditate upon them, I realized how incredibly, unspeakably amazing they were. There is no words for it. In the face of such challenges that came upon them. And we are told that Jesus was absolutely clear that his face was set on Jerusalem for that, Passover. Even though everybody near and dear to him, and even strangers, said, you're a dead man if you go to Jerusalem. You're a crazy man if you go to Jerusalem. You're out of your mind if you go to Jerusalem right now. That's exactly what they want you to do. They're waiting for you. And we're told his face was set on Jerusalem. He was solid in his commitment to doing what was his impetus to do in order to be able to accomplish what he came here to accomplish, in spite of whatever might face him. And so off he went. And of course, everything people said and then some happened. The betrayal was probably the deepest hurt of all, when one of your own turns you in, so to speak. And then the rest desert you and pretend they never even knew you. Because they're afraid, scared, frightened. See, it's all beautiful to talk about it, and it's all fine when everything is going right. But then when the challenge comes and you are asked to sacrifice everything, even your own life, for a very worthy and just cause, it's a whole different thing then. But it didn't faze Jesus, did it? No. So out of that came the final understanding with regard to what Jesus meant when he was talking about forgiveness. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, forgiveness is elusive for so many of us. We'd like to be able to forgive, we want to be able to forgive, but there are some times when we're just not able to forgive. And you see, with forgiveness, it's not something you can, anybody else can encourage us to do or do for us, that's for certain sure. You can only forgive when you're ready to forgive, as much as you might want to. If you're not ready, it's not going to happen. And then what happens? Well, you're left with the heavy weight of unforgiveness. The heavy, heavy weight of unforgiveness. It snuffs out the joy in our life. It's a very heavy weight, and it's a very tight bond on us, unforgiveness. Now, understand this. We are not forgiven, nor do we forgive because someone deserves it. It's nothing to do with deservability. Forgiveness is this beautiful act of grace. It's a beautiful, generous, loving act. It's an incredible It's the most incredible of all gifts that we could receive or give. Forgiveness. The act, the beautiful, beneficent act of amazing grace moving through us in such a way that we can what? We can unhook ourselves from all the psychological cords that bind us to the people we still resent, wish revenge upon, and will not let off the hook that is attached to us. And here's the thing, nobody is suffering from that hook except the one who's still hooked. Everybody else is going about their business, not even giving you a second thought, or me either. I'm the one that bears the suffering, not only of the betrayal or whatever it was, but also the unforgiveness that weighs me down. And so that is why forgiveness is an amazing thing. As we sing an Amazing Grace, that saved, it says in the singing, a wretch like me. But in the eyes of the Creator, there are no wretches. That's a human construct. We're not wretches, no matter how naughty we've been. No matter how naughty we've been, we're never considered to be wretches by the lover of our souls and the Creator of our beings. Always in divine mind and divine heart, we are seen and perceived as whole and complete and the perfect image and likeness, the perfect emanation of divine love. All of the nonsense and all of the good and evil and so on is a human construct that we play out as a terrible, horrific story that's untrue. So forgiveness is an essential part in the great drama of three-dimensional life and living. It really is the champion that comes in. It's the one riding up on the great white stallion to save us. Forgiveness is. And there's no judgment around this as far as whether people can or cannot forgive, because you can only forgive when you're ready to forgive. But the first step is to be open to wanting to be able to unburden ourselves of this unforgiveness, heavy weight, and this terrible thud in the solar plexus all the time. And no one can unhook us from those psychological, emotional cords that bind us except ourselves. That's all. So maybe, just maybe, this is the day that you and I are triggered into looking at all the unforgiveness in our lives, either unforgiveness we have not yet received or unforgiveness that we have not bestowed. But I can assure you of this. If you and I can bestow forgiveness, we will feel that forgiveness is ours too. And it hasn't anything to do with the divine, because the divine holds absolutely nothing against us. Life holds nothing against us, nothing at all. As far as life is concerned, the divine is concerned, the one is concerned, there's nothing to forgive, because it doesn't see us at that level. It only sees us as its own reflection in a whole, complete state. So all of that is the game of life as far as the game of good and evil is concerned. It's a human construct. It's played out on the human field. So it's always up to us who got ourselves into this kind of mess to get ourselves out of this kind of mess. And the only way we can do it is remembering, I'm not the mess. I'm not this wickedness. I'm not this terribleness. I'm not this sinfulness. I'm not this mistakenness. I'm not. That's a character, a very minute and not very consequential part of me, playing out on planet Earth's stage all of this nonsense. So if I can get to that and understand that, then I know, well, if Spirit sees nothing in me to forgive, I need to take this business of forgiveness seriously. Now, I am not saying that when we forgive somebody an awful atrocity or a little thing, that we're letting them off the hook. We're not. We're not even thinking about that. We're letting ourselves off the hook that binds us to them in suffering and hurt and woundedness. And it certainly doesn't condone what that was, whatever it was. It does not. And it certainly doesn't mean that I have to be a moment in their company. I don't. Forgiveness just means I'm freeing myself from the weight and the burden of this horrible feeling and heavy weightedness of being a victim. And I don't want to be a victim anymore. I want to be free. And that's what resurrection is all about. It's about that thing that happens, the love unconditioned that's betrayed, then the forgiveness that flows as a result of that, and then the rising up out of all of the weight and heaviness and completing the circle to feel whole again, to feel redeemed by ourselves, saved by ourselves, to feel I'm brand new again. I am now light of being. I am now free and clear of anything that I thought was holding me back. And more than that, I'm being true to my real essence. I'm being true to the purpose for which I came. I'm being ready and able now to be truly on the completion of my mission here. Because there's nothing weighing me down. I'm unanchored from all of the nonsense, from all of the weight and all of the heaviness of holding back. Because I have unleashed all of these cords, detached myself from them. And that's what forgiveness is about, detachment. In fact, life on planet Earth is learning about detachment all of the time. Life on planet Earth, as you grow in wisdom and grace, and I grow in wisdom and grace, has to do with all the time releasing, letting go. And it can be the letting go of person, places, and things too, as well as emotional baggage and mental baggage and physical baggage and soul baggage. It's understanding that here, as an individualized expression of spirit, I can travel without any luggage at all. I can accomplish without any stuff and things around me. I can accomplish whatever it is I'm here to accomplish in peace and joy and serenity, because when I forgive, I return back into that state of poise, equilibrium, that is a lightness of being that provides me with an energetic that gives me the impetus to do what I am here to do best. Serve the good. Serve the good in all of life and in all of living, however I can. And I don't even have to sit down and plan how I'm going to do that. It naturally happens. A need will find me, and I will endeavor to meet it when it does. That's all it means. But then I may be called to specific and definite things that I am very clear about, and then I can pursue that with that energetic, that passion, that power, that amazing grace that is my impetus that moves me along. And let me tell you, my dear ones, today in the day of the life of Jesus was the best day and the worst day at the same time. It was the beginning of his final completion of what he was here to accomplish. And it's always the best of times and the worst of times on planet Earth, I can tell you that. For some people, and sometimes for all people together, like now we're experiencing that. But if we can do what we're capable of doing and be what we are in truth, we can get through anything with poise, holding the strength of us together through our connection with our source, and only through the connection we have with our source. Because once we forget that there is that power and presence within us available to us to call forth any time we need it in our time of need. And if we think for a moment that we're in this on our own, That's when we begin to feel the fragmentation. That's when we begin to feel unable. That's when we begin to go from faith to fear. However, the one thing about Jesus was he never forgot that he was in the presence and in the company of his Father, which was his wonderful word for the moreness of himself, the greatness of himself, the divinity of himself. That was there always to guide him and strengthen him and provide for him whatever it was he needed in his direst moment to be able to make the way through it. You know, and his last few days on planet Earth were anything but horrible. But he was himself through it all. He never failed to be himself in it all, through it all. He just kept a close connection with his source. And even at times, if that was a crying out which it will be for you and for me from time to time. But nevertheless, we know that divine presence is here to take care of us, no matter what the appearances seem to be. And sometimes the appearances are just so overwhelming that we're up to here in it, and we're almost buried by it. But once we hang in there, we surface. We always do. It's the law of life. We cannot do anything else. So this day, maybe you and I can ask ourselves, well, how do I fare with love, unconditioned and unconditional, in my own life? It's a big thing that you and I are asked or challenged by in this day, and this thing of betrayal, have I still allowed myself to be hooked into what appeared to be the cause of all of that? Am I still hooked? Am I still weighed down? Am I feeling any resentment still around it, and so on and so forth? Forgiveness, how am I doing with forgiveness? What's going on in the forgiveness, realm of my life? Are there things I need to revisit and so on? Or do I want to stay weighted for another time? And that's a decision too. It's a sovereign decision. That's up to you. It's up to me. No judgment around it. It's just you're a sovereign being. You get to choose, and so do I. And then we look at, am I ready to rise? Am I ready to rise up into a more light way of being, into a way of energy and enthusiasm and curiosity with regard to what good thing can I help happen now? Where am I called? What is my calling? Where are my energies supposed to be right now? These are the things we look at on this day. Once upon a time, I hated every single Good Friday. It was so dour. It was so lamentable. It was so hard. Now, it's one of the best days of the year because it's a day of the greatest love of all. No greater love has anybody, but they lay down their lives for another. We're always told that. And many people have done that. Many people have become Christed consciously aware enough to be able to put their lives aside for another, like, Father Kolb in the concentration camp, who volunteered to go to the gas chamber instead of someone else. People like that abound all the time. We don't always hear about them, but they're there. We have these consciously Christed people walking amongst us, which means they have put on the mind that was Christed. They have the Buddha mind, awake and alert, whatever you want to call it. And they're able to do what we think are extraordinary things. But they're not extraordinary things. They're natural things for someone who is in liaison with their greater self and who are divinely guided and divinely led and are spiritually awake enough and humanly mature enough to be able to understand what life is about. That's why we come to places like this, any spiritual center you want to think about. Doesn't have to be one particular one by one particular name. It doesn't matter what it's called, as long as it gives you and me an opportunity to grow in wisdom and grace, to grow in awareness and understanding, to grow in deeper service to the good in the world. And that's what it's all about. Now, love is very much an action word. We are spiritual activists. If we're on a spiritual path, we're spiritually action-oriented. It's not enough to want it, to wish it, to desire it, to think somebody else is going to do it, they're going to do. No, it's not about any of that outside of you. It's about you. What are you willing to do? What are you ready to do? What are you right now ready to change in your life so that you can be you at the level of capital SELF? That's what it's about, really. And there's no judgment around it. There's no bogeyman waiting to catch you out. There really isn't, except you. I loved what Theodore Roosevelt once said. He said, if you want to discover the person in your life that causes you the greatest woes, he said, and kick them in the pants, he said, you won't be able to sit down for a month when you discover that person. See? I make the way before me on my life's path. So do you, through the way we think, through the way we feel, through the way we tell ourselves stories, whatever those stories are affecting us. And it's like in Shakespeare we read, in Julius Caesar, where Shakespeare says, the fault, dear Brutus, lies not in our stars, but within ourselves. So maybe, just maybe, the first person in our lives to forgive is ourselves for our unforgiveness, or whatever. Just maybe. We might be the first ones to let off the hook. The first ones to receive that blessing of amazing grace. Just maybe. Life's an incredible and an amazing mystery. It's the divine mystery unfolding by means of you and by means of me. And like all mysteries, until you get to the end of it, you haven't a clue. But it's not yours to know the whole mystery, or mine either. It's yours and mine to take the pieces we have of the jigsaw of mystery and use those pieces to the best of our ability. And guess what? When we use the pieces we have, another piece will come, and another piece will come, and another piece will come. And we'll keep building that jigsaw until eventually we have a clear picture. And that's what amazing grace does for you and for me. It's the genie that is available to us. It's the magic wand. It's the magic ring. It's the magic necklace. It's the magic cape, whatever. There are stories abounding of all of the magic things there are, and they are all symbols for that divine intuitive intelligence or genius within us that is available to us that we completely ignore most of the time. I don't even know it's there. Most people don't. And what it is our essential essence. That's all it is. It's essential, whole, truth, essence. Available to you and available to me. Thing is, are we open and receptive? Are we just playing at it? Are we just playing at it? Are we just saying words? Are we just at the level of desire? See, the idea, the desire, they're very profound and deep, but they'll get us nowhere until actions, the waters of grace, flow upon the idea and move us to action. Water is an incredible thing. We've had an example of that today. And Jesus was terrifically fluid. He was terrifically fluid. He was able to move through everything and anything, and he would say, this does not move me. This does not move me. Straight, he went through granite, he went through woodlands, he went through deserts, he went through difficult terrain, metaphorically speaking. He was always in that flow of the rivers of grace, and he never came out of them. Never came out of them. Now, where are you and I in in the flow of amazing grace, in the rivers of life itself, the waters of life itself. Great analogies made in all of the scriptures to water as a power, and it is. And it is. And it only takes a drip and a drip and a drip and a drip to drill a big hole in a rock until it splits the rock in two. That's how powerful it is. You and I making a tiny little change in our lives, changing one little thought in our heads, making one little movement toward our self-realization can eventually be like the drip of water that can split a granite rock asunder. Now, the question is, there's no good us coming together like this and hearing things and being, kind of in a cradle for a few minutes of soothingness or whatever our experience is, if no action follows, if there's no change as a result, if there's no determination, intention afterwards to be able to be the better part of myself and to be the more of myself. So, my dear ones, the message today is very clear. Love is always the answer. And love is the givingness of itself to life in service of life. And love is the same always, and it never changes. Love never alters when it altercation finds, says the great bard too. It's always the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now listen, you and I can do nothing about our past, but through love and forgiveness and service, we can change our present and we can change our future into something amazingly, awesomely wonderful. And that's why we come together like this, to remind ourselves of that. And that is why we're in community, so we can help each other gently along. And so we can be a better type of group of people in spiritual community than maybe what we are outside of it. And that is why you hear every now and again, we have one great lady right up there, well into her 90s, as strong as an oak tree, as tall as a sapling. And if any notion of anybody sharing with her something untoward that didn't belong at a spiritual center, her response always was, "That's gossip and I don't want to hear it." Would that we were all like that great lady, that stately, that sovereign lady. I'm telling you, we can. So the question, what one thought are you going to change today? What one behavior are you going to change today? What one thing are you going to allow into your life and allow out of your life in order to bring about your lightness of being? Because all of this will add to your lightness of being. A changed thought, a changed feeling, a changed action, a changed habit. A tiny little thing. I'm not asking for anything big. Just a drip, 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 drip gets the job done. Every day of our life, if we were to do that tiny little thing, our lives would improve immensely. And not only would you be the better of it, but everybody around you would, and all the world too. So love is always the answer, my dear ones. Love and only love. We always come back to that. Love and only love. Lifefulness is what love is. Lightness is what love is. And above all else, life is givingness, service, sacred service. It's been a joy to be with you at this beautiful day and to celebrate with you, what this thing called life is. And we had the candle lighting here honoring all those who have sacrificed so much because they loved so much and paid the price so amazingly and so graciously and so bravely. That's what the light honors. And then, of course, the flower is always a symbol of blossoming, is it not? And that's what today is about too. Open up the buds. Let the buds blossom into the rising up of life and lightness of being, as you and I unburden ourselves, unhook ourselves from everything we've attached ourselves to that weighs us down, weighs upon us, stops us and blocks us from proceeding ahead and unfolding who we are, what we are, and knowing whose we are. So, my dear ones, right now, blessings be in you and through you and as you, and all those near and dear to you, and throughout all of creation too. And so, in the spirit of givingness now, we celebrate our own fullness and our own plenty, and we take our wonderful gift between our amazing hands, and we bless that wonderful gift. And thank you so much for all your great support out there in the world, helping to make it a better place, and for your great support of our wonderful work here at the Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living, ensuring its legacy will live on for many generations to come, because we need more and more and more and more places like this. And also, thank you for your good thoughts, your good feelings. Thank you for every good deed, because you're making such tremendous difference, and we appreciate that, and we celebrate you for that. And now we take our gift, we hold our gift between our blessing, giving hands, and we say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. And now we're going to have our blessing. And we're going to offer that blessing up for an opening of minds and hearts to the true essence of being, so that each and every one of us can show up as the light that we are, the life that we are, and the love that we are, and help to bring this world together in unity and harmony and fellowship again. So know with me right here and right now. I know divine love enfolds me, divine light leads me, divine life lives in me, and divine wisdom inspires me. Divine compassion expresses through me, and divine power protects me. All that I am is Spirit's life and expression. It is good and very good, with deep joy and generosity filling me. I go forward in sacred service, supporting a compassionate world that works for all. I move through my days with grace and ease, in peace and love, in health and wellness, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. What I now know for myself, with blessing and in deep gratitude, I know for all life. There's only God, there is only God, there is only God. And thanks be to God, there's you. And the world is depending upon you, and your beauty and your grace being freed up to go out there and splash itself all over the place as that life and that light and that love. And I know each and every one of us are united in this endeavor. So please stay tuned in. I look forward to being in your company on Easter Day, on Sunday, as we celebrate the joy of all of that and the rising up into that great life that we are. And know that you're loved, you're cherished, and that we appreciate every single little thing that you do to make the difference. And we appreciate you. So, take good care. Mind yourself, because God dwells in you as you, and that's worthy of great care. You are the temple of the Most High. You are the holder of that beautiful Holy Grail, and it's yours to share. We're going to finish our time together with that age-old, beautiful, amazing grace, which is what flows through you and what you are, and everybody else your life will ever touch. So until we meet again, know that God is, you are, and all is one.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved and set me free. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Yes, I see. Amazing, amazing, we got